Today is Monday, June 7th, 2021, and last night I spent $50 to watch boxing. Boxing. $50. And the audio was like 10 to 15 seconds ahead of the picture. It was insane. But I had a good time, and I actually got my money back. We're going to talk about all of it. Welcome to Derapy, Season 2, for some reason. I'll let you guys in on a little behind the scenes. I actually recorded like 5 minutes of this, but then I realized that my mic wasn't plugged in. So that's just my life. You would never know that if I didn't just tell you. But anyways, I'm not going to waste more than 13 seconds of your time. Look, the first fight was Chad Johnson versus Brian Mac. Oh my God. It was Chad Ocho Cinco, excuse me. He legally changed his name to the number that he used to wear when he played football, but in Spanish, because that was his nickname. I don't know. He was Chad Johnson. Now he's legally Chad Ocho Cinco. I don't want to disrespect the man. We'll call him whatever he wants. It's his preferred name. I mean, sorry, it's his legal name. Have some respect. Chad Ocho Cinco and Brian Maxwell are fighting. I'm not going to tell you who Brian Maxwell is because you don't care and it doesn't matter. All I know is he fought once before and he lost that one. But this is an exhibition match. Like, it doesn't even matter. They're just doing this for fun. And it's crazy. Chad Ocho Cinco tweeted that he got $1 million off of this. How? Why? He said he made it in like 8 minutes. 8 minutes to just get slapped around, try and slap somebody else. I say that because these don't look like professional fighters. I mean, because they're not. As soon as they started fighting, I got immediately uncomfortable. But it's because I'm used to seeing fights like that, but they're usually in World Star Hip Hop fight compilations. They're not with people in a ring on TV with boxing gloves on and like a judge. It just looked so strange. It felt wrong. I just don't understand. Wait, yes I do. It's for money. But it looked sloppy. It looked amateur. But again, I mean, I say again like it's something I already said. But it takes guts to get in the boxing ring, to get in any situation where you're about to engage in physical combat with somebody who you're not truly sure their capabilities until you're actually in the ring with them. Like, you never really know, especially with two guys like this. Like, there can't be that much footage out there on them. So the fact that they even got in there and did it, you know, I guess deserves some type of respect. I mean, maybe not from me, but from some. I mean, I wouldn't do it. Actually, I don't know. For $1 million, yeah, I would. What am I saying? I'm all over the place. Look, I'm not going to waste your time with this. Ocho Cinco did get dropped towards the end of it. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter. There's no real winner. It's kind of pointless. Anyways, the next fight was awesome. What's funny is the second fight is probably my favorite fight of the night. But it was between a boxer named Jarrett Hurd and another boxer named... Why am I saying boxers like you don't know they're both boxers? Jarrett Hurd versus Luis Arias. Now, Jarrett Hurd is the favorite. And I know that because I started betting on sports. And also DraftKings Sportsbook was sponsoring the event. I'm going to try not to say their name too much because, you know, I'm not trying to give them any free press. Like, they're not paying me for this. I mean, they did pay me because I bet and I won. Spoiler alert. You saw it. Maybe you didn't. Who cares? How do I determine whether or not it's actually worth me putting money on? I mean, regardless, I'm going to do this anyways. I was looking at YouTube highlights for every fighter of the night. I look up Jarrett Hurd's highlights. First of all, he has highlights, which is good. Like, if you're a really bad boxer, nobody's putting together compilations of your best moments because you just don't have that many. Maybe you're losing all your fights, or most of them. But Jarrett Hurd had highlights, and Luis Arias didn't. And I was like, oh, man, now I understand. But as I mentioned, I bet some money. I bet $15 on the fight. You're like, Derek, that's not that much. What's the point? Arias is such a big underdog that by betting $15, the payout would be $93, which means I would net, like my net earned would be $78. The fight was $50. So if Arias pulls it out, I get my money back and some. So the fight, right? It ends up going the whole distance. It's 10 rounds, by the way, 10 3-minute rounds. Just saying it out loud, it really makes you think, like, could you imagine for 30 minutes punching somebody and being bunched and moving and dodging and blocking and ducking and bobbing and weaving and doing all that for 30 minutes? 30 minutes. We're not like talking about like a light jog or like even jump roping, but like punching and being, it's crazy. The conditioning on these guys is absurd. And it went 10 rounds. My boy, Luis Arias, he was the aggressor. Like, look, I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of specific boxing talk because I don't know anything. I already said I don't know anything about basketball or football, even though I watch them all the time, and I feel like I do, but deep down I really don't. Boxing, I truly don't know about. So I'm not going to get into all the specifics and why they won each round. But Arias was just trying harder than the other guy. And before the fight started, Jarrett Hurd came out with a shirt that said RIP to somebody. And I didn't know who it was, but honestly, it didn't matter to me. Like, I don't know who these guys are. I find out after the fight that it was his dad. Like, his dad just died. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why he didn't do so hot. Like, did Vegas and these, like, betting places, like, did they know that his dad died? Maybe. Well, the last fight that Jake Paul was in, unrelated but related, he said that it was dedicated to this guy that he knew and loved, like a bodyguard of his head of security or whatever, and he was fighting on his behalf. And he obliterated Ben Askren. And I think there are other instances where somebody close to you passes. Isaiah Thomas, this guard, he was on the Celtics like a couple years ago, and like his sister died like a day or two prior, and he went out and scored like 40, 50 points or whatever. Sometimes that stuff motivates you. Last night was not one of those nights. He was getting just smashed. Like, he has a crazy good. You talk about like a chin, like having an iron chin, like a Rocky Balboa level chin. The dude was just eating punches like he was starving for them. I think he wanted more. It was like he wanted to get hit, but he just wouldn't go down. And unfortunately, it's not good enough to just not get knocked down or knocked out. Like, you also have to kind of hit back. And when he did hit, like, you could tell that Jarrett Hurd was the better fighter, and that's why he was favored. But I think he was just adamant, man. He was down, and it was weird. After the fight, he was like, I feel like I won. I'm not going to make excuses, but I feel like I won. It's like, everybody knows that you didn't. It really wasn't close. But Arias got me paid, and he's got a fan in me. Anyways, the third fight, we're almost there to the main event. The third fight was a guy named Badu Jack versus, why am I laughing? His name is Dervin Colina, and I just knew, first of all, the name. Oh, look, just Google these guys. Like, I was going to say, just look at these guys as if this is an audio only, but look up Badu Jack, Badou, Jack, how you think you'd spell it, Badu Jack, and then look up Dervin Colina, okay? So, Badu was clearly better, obviously, and I don't care. I bet on it anyways. I bet the under. I bet the underdog. Because to me, it's low risk, high reward for me to put $10 on this fight and potentially win like 100. Like, I get 110 payout, I bet 10, so I would have got $100 if Colina would have pulled this out. And fortunately, but I mean unfortunately, Dervin, he did get annihilated. Like, it wasn't close. He's hanging on for dear life. The ref kept telling him, stop holding him, you have to fight. Like, we're boxing, please box. And we find out in the middle of the fight that he took the fight, Dervin did, on 1 week notice. So, like, 10 days ago, he didn't know he was going to be doing this. And now he's like, all right, fine, I'll fight Badu Jack. Badu Jack. He sounds like somebody out of Mortal Kombat. And he punches like it. So, yeah, Dervin got slapped around for 4 rounds, and then he went down. But that means nothing to me. Godspeed. It was getting late anyways. I had to drive 2 hours to get back to Murfreesboro. I was in chat with the family, with my girl or whatever, and, like, it was getting late, and she had to work the next day, which is today, at, like, 9 something, and it's, like, 10, 11 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? I mean, as much as I would like for this to go the distance, and maybe my man comes back and hits Badu with something crazy, like, it's cool. I'm already in the green. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. So the moment we've all been waiting for, just like how I waited last night for hours and hours and hours, I can't really complain, because I watched the Jake Paul Ben Askren fight. You might know what that is, you might not. I don't care. And oh my god, that lasted all day and night. I feel like it started at 6 and ended like midnight. It was absurd. There was all these concerts and all these like random skits. There was like a slap contest in the middle. We're not going to get into it. But this event was literally 4 fights, and they went back to back to back to back. Minimal commercials. It wasn't much riffraff. It was a legitimate event. I mean, everybody that was there when they were talking to like celebrities and people on Twitter, everybody's talking about how great of a show they put on. And I think it's one of those things, like, you just have to be there for it. Because on television, it was terrible. The commentators were dog water. The audio delay was, sorry, it wasn't an audio delay. Like, the audio was coming first, actually. It was the picture delay. Excuse me. And it was just the worst. You constantly, like, kept hearing, like, the bell would ring to end the round while they're still fighting. I'm like, well, I guess there was no knockout. Or you would hear the commentators freak out about something, and you're like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? I don't know who's gonna get hit. And yeah, it was just nuts. But Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather are fighting. And look, I'm familiar with Logan Paul. I love YouTube. I'm always on there. I have to admit, don't click off. Don't close this podcast. I am a bit of a Logan Paul fan. Please don't leave. I've seen lots of his videos. He used to be like kind of a dirtbag. He did some awful stuff we don't have to get into, but it seems like he's changed since then. Now he's a cool dude. I listened to his podcast, and I saw some other people's podcasts that he was on, some other interviews that he was doing, and the man is just supremely confident. And you can only assume that he must be training like a madman to believe that he has any shot in the world of competing with Floyd Mayweather. I mean, the only real fight he's had was against KSI, this other YouTuber who really isn't that good at boxing either. Like, he's probably significantly less talented as far as boxing skill goes than Logan Paul even was in November of 2019 when they fought. And he still lost to KSI. So, he's 0-1. Logan Paul is 0-1. Not to a boxer, to a YouTuber. And he's fighting Floyd Mayweather, who's 50-0. Just say it out loud. It's ludicrous. But whatever. So, like every other fighter that was fighting, and I've done this before, but I had to do it again to refresh myself. I watched all Floyd's highlights. You know this man has 27 knockouts? Everybody talks about Floyd Mayweather like he's the ultimate defensive fighter. And he is. I think that's what that's how he butters his bread. But you don't knock 27 people out if you don't have like some legitimate punching power. Now, granted, he hasn't done that in a while, but just knowing that he's done that in the past, like, what makes you think he can't do that to Logan? People have been talking about how big Logan is, and they're like, oh, he has this huge weight advantage. But, like, what does that have to do with your brain? Like, your ears, your nose, like, your lips. Like, if you get punched there, I don't think it matters how much you weigh if you're getting punched in the face by a professional boxer. So, I don't know. So, like, my prediction for the fight, not that it really matters. I mean, every time you go into a boxing fight or an MMA fight, everybody's always talking big and bad. Like, Logan's like, I'm going to knock him out. And Floyd's like, I'm going to knock him out. Spoiler alert, nobody got knocked out. How does this keep happening? I watched the KSI Logan fight. So, he's going to get knocked out. I'm going to smash him. It doesn't happen. I guess it's harder to knock people out than you think. Maybe they just don't have the technique, or maybe the person they're trying to knock out just has a ton of heart, like Jared Hurt's head. But for whatever reason, knockout didn't come. My prediction was, up until like a couple days before the fight, I thought it was going to be like a real fight. I mean, like, as far as the rules go. And then I find out that there's going to be no judges and there's going to be no named winner, but they would allow for knockouts and knockdowns. So now, the only way we can, like, have a clear, legitimate, like, no doubt winner is if somebody actually gets knocked out. But going into the fight, I was like, even if Logan doesn't get knocked out, even if Floyd just pieces him up, and I kept saying that to my brother while we were watching, I was like, I feel like Floyd's just going to take him to school. Like, just tap him up, touch him up. He's not going to, like, Logan is not going to hit him at all. Like, Logan might not be able to hit him a single time. But to Logan's credit, like, he really stuck around. I mean, you look at the stats after, they're hilarious. Like, Logan hit on, like, 10 to 15% of his punches when he was trying to hit Floyd, and Floyd hit on, like, 40 to 60% of the punches. And it's just crazy considering the amount of, and obviously Logan threw way more, but it's just crazy to me that you could spend 8 rounds in the ring with Floyd and just not only not get knocked out, but he didn't even get knocked down. He wasn't stumbling around. He wasn't wobbling all over the place. Like, my man really just stood in there with him and went toe to toe, and it's just crazy. And it's like, yeah, obviously the stats at the end would indicate that Floyd took him to school. It really wasn't close, but Logan survived. I mean, he won in my book. I mean, he walked out with like $20 million minimum. I'm not exaggerating. And that's before we even get into all the sponsors and all this other stuff. It's just, I guess it just shows you how hard he trained. And I mean, even Floyd after the fight was like, yeah, he was better than I expected. It was weird. Like, I didn't expect him to. I mean, at one point, Logan did catch him with a two-piece. And I know it's like, they're in there for like over 20 minutes with each other. So you know Logan might hit him eventually. But honestly, you put me in the ring with Floyd for 20 minutes and you tell him he's not even allowed to punch, I probably still wouldn't be able to hit him. That man is quick. We've been looking at each other eye to eye. Floyd and I are the same height. Isn't that crazy? I'm like 5'6". Floyd's like 5'6". And I think it's crazy. I think I weigh as much as Logan does. That just shows you how terrible of shape I'm in. But whatever. This is not about me. Logan had 30 pounds on him and like 6 or 7 inches. But it's just crazy because their reach was actually similar. Logan had like 1 extra inch of reach on him, which is weird. Like Floyd must be born to be a boxer with long arms, or maybe Logan just has short arms. I don't know, man. Look, I don't know boxing. I don't even know how I talked about it this long. But, I mean, long story short, I mean, the results of this fight, yeah, like some people are going to be like, oh, it's whack. They were holding on to each other. They're hugging each other too much. If you look at the stats at the end of the fight, like they threw over 100 punches. Like, what more do you want? I mean, you think they're just going to stand up, not take advantage of the rules of boxing, not hold on when things get tough? Like, Logan's trying not to die in there. What do you expect? So, I mean, to me, as far as I'm concerned, Logan's a winner. To me, I mean, Floyd's a winner. I mean, nobody lost. They're both extremely rich. Floyd got paid, I think, like over $100 million or something ridiculous like that. I don't know, man. When is enough money? Like, when do you have enough money? I don't know. I heard Floyd spins crazy, so he has to keep taking all these crazy fights to keep up with his lifestyle. Whatever. Who cares? We don't care. So, I don't know what's next for Logan. I mean, if it was me, like, I would quit. I would never box again. I would never pick up a pair of boxing gloves again. You'd never see me in another boxing gym. Like, isn't this your peak? Like, to just be in the ring with Floyd Mayweather and just not get destroyed? Like, what's the point of getting back in the ring with anybody else? You're probably not going to make as much money. Forget it. And it's funny because compared to Jake Paul, it's like Jake probably deserved the fight more. I don't know how Logan ended up here. It doesn't make any sense. Jake's the one that's like knocking people out, making memes out of people. He's the one that got his hat. So, I mean, I think that would have been the more enjoyable fight because I think Jake would have went crazy. Like, in the last couple of rounds, he would have swung for the fences. He probably would have ended up getting himself knocked out. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're just built different because Floyd was slapping Logan up and he didn't go down. So, who knows? Jake's going to be fighting Tyron Woodley next. He looks like a killer. Look up his highlights. But whatever. We'll talk about Jake another time. He's a goon. Or maybe not. Yeah, we will. This fight's going to be in like August. I'll still be doing Derapy then. You might still be listening. Maybe not. Whatever. But I'll still be talking about it even if I'm talking to myself. I'm rambling. Like I said, I'm not going to waste your time. Anyways, overall, my girlfriend would disagree. But I think it was worth the money. Considering Badu destroyed the dude he was fighting. Ocho Cinco got knocked down in a very funny World Star-esque way. Arias came through with the big upset. He looked like a warrior. Logan Paul survived. I think it was highly entertaining. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I might have in passing, but the commentators sucked. Like, they sucked arse. They were easily the worst part of it. I mean, Jesus Lord, we have to do better about who we pay to commentate these events. For whatever reason, the entire time Logan was fighting, they were just pooping all over the man. I mean, like, showing him no respect. Which is hilarious, because you know if any of the guys commentating were in the ring with Floyd, I don't think they last 8 rounds with him. It's just, I don't know, man. I just, like, I'm not like the world's biggest Logan Paul stan, but, like, you gotta give that man his props. I mean, Floyd did, so, like, what's the deal? Anyways, we'll see what the Paul brothers get up to next. I'll be there watching, or trying to win cash or something. Anyways, I'll see you Wednesday, or tomorrow. Depends on how I feel. I don't know. Later. This episode was made possible by Anchor. If you're listening to this episode on Spotify, please consider giving me a follow so you can be notified when I upload. If this ever ends up on Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at Derapy Podcast or Instagram at Derapy_podcast. The intro music is by my brother, Damon Buxton. Outro music is by Lobo, and cover art is by my friend Nick Johnson. Thanks for listening. This has been Derapy.